Greetings, true believers. Hi once again, and welcome in, everybody. I'm Ed Berliner. Welcome to the Talk Sports Network and the Blu Sheet. Larry Blustein joins us as once again we dig into high school, we dig into recruiting, we dig into players, and this time we're going to dig into some of the people when it comes down to all of these social media wankers and wannabes who know everything there is to know about what coach is going to wind up where, when in essence, they know absolutely nothing. How do we know? We've been there. Mr. Blustein, always a pleasure, my friend. How are you?
Great.
Oh,
Wow.
man.
Just listening to what you're saying, it just conjures up every time that anybody makes a change of anything, coaching job in this
Oh.
city in South Florida, special. I'm telling you, it's all over, because when you don't hear anything and people try to be as tight-lipped as possible, you start making things up and you start making scenarios up, and you don't understand how dumb you look. You really don't, because some of the names that have, you know what? The whole thing is my
Here we
dad
go,
once,
man. It's just we're starting right off the top, baby.
yeah,
Go
well,
for it.
I've got to say this. My dad once told me, my dad was a refrigeration air conditioning mechanic, and people would forever try to tell him his business. So he would look at the people and go, "What line of work you in?" And they say, "Well, I sell computers." Okay. He said, Would I ever tell you how to run your computer store? No. So why would you tell me this? So you look at the parallel from the athletic directors, not just in South Florida, not just in Miami and FIU, but all these places looking for athletic directors. The first thing out of their mouth is a former football player. Let's get that former football player, no matter if he has any experience in balancing budgets, being able to handle 14 NCAA sports, men and women. No, all we think about is the football aspect of things. Don't you understand how dumb you look? And I will take nothing away from Alonzo Highsmith, nicest person I met ever. Gino Torretta, one of the more intelligent people, went on and did a great job, but
Yep.
none of them have had any experience at running a college athletic program. The assistant at Duke, the assistant at Virginia. Remember, I told you this.
Yes.
1-2 in the ACC in overall athletics. That means basketball teams win, soccer teams win, their track programs win, and they are the upper echelon. They would never, ever think about hiring a football guy with no experience at those schools. What are you, crazy?
Well, here's the next thing, too, because in all of this that's gone on here in the last few weeks, I was reading a lot of the social media posts. Got it. And I have to say that I feel like I've had absolute intelligence seeping from my brain every time I go to look at them. But I'm watching Southern California. I'm watching the University of Florida. I'm watching the University of Miami. And then, of course, now Notre Dame comes into it and a bunch of others and all these things.
in
I start reading them.
Oklahoma.
Everybody is LSU, same thing, is a genius. Oh, I've got the source. My sources tell me this person. You better believe me on this. Hey, listen to my radio show. Listen to my show that actually has 6 people that listen to the damn thing. I've got the whole. You don't. Stop. Shut up. You look stupid. Because, and Larry and I have been doing this now between the two of us for 50, 80,
century, almost a century.
million years. We've and with Joe Casal, our good buddy who's been around this for a long time, and the people that we know, hey, trust us, we know more than you do. We do.
Yeah.
We're smarter because we happen to know the people that are involved. So all of this nonsense, I keep telling people, Larry, that if you're going to go ahead and say that, and I bring the Miami situation up because it's the most hysterical. I have inside information that Mario Cristobal desperately wants to get out of Oregon and come back home to the University of Miami. You better have a 2-drink minimum, and you better have a cover charge, because this stuff is the funniest shit anywhere that you can possibly throw. Just stop and let the process roll. Although, wait a minute. I'm going to say this. Maybe no, don't stop. Continue, because it's fun. People like Larry and I, we watch this stuff, and all we get is this great amount of entertainment over it. Because, okay, look, Larry, maybe we should just say, your fans, go ahead and have your fun. It's harmless at the end of the day. So maybe we ought to just stop bemoaning the whole fact and actually applauding them for giving us free entertainment.
Well, it is really free entertainment. But the whole thing is if you would just stop just for 1 second, take a look at that Oregon situation. Just do a little Google search for Phil Knight, okay? And then when you find Phil Knight, you look up his net worth. Well, Mario Cristobal right now has an open checkbook and this man's number on his speed dial. Do you think that if Mario Cristobal announced that he was going to take the Miami job or some other job, that Phil Knight wouldn't just say, you know what, we're going to make you the highest paid college football coach because we think you're worth it. This is a good program. It's a great area. And for those people who continue to bemoan that Mario's wife doesn't like it there, let me tell you, the money that he's making, if she doesn't like it, he could create an atmosphere that looks like Southwest 8th Street in a second.
He can
Believe
bring
me.
in palm trees for crying out loud. He can build a dome. I mean, not only that, but here's your second home in Coral Gables. You can go down there and vacation anytime you want. It's nonsense what they go through. It is
nonsense.
But it's happened at every single program across the country. It happens all the time. And yeah, maybe it is just good entertainment. And we ought to just tell people, have fun. If you want to believe any of this, but do us all a favor. Mr. Blustein has been around this for half a century. He knows these people inside and out. I've been doing this for more than 30 years.
Yeah.
It's not like we're just go ahead and we're reading off social media and we're going, oh, look, that looks real good. Let's go ahead and jot this down. We know who the people are, and we also know who's talking and who's not. And here, shh, don't tell anybody. Nobody's talking. Nobody. I mean, at UM, they weren't talking. At Notre Dame, they're not talking. At Southern Cal, they weren't talking. At Louisiana, they weren't talking. At Oklahoma, at Florida, they weren't talking. I got to give credit where credit is due, Larry.
Yeah.
Because the people in the administrations of these schools that were all changing coaches and this merry-go-round happened, you didn't hear a peep out of them.
Nothing.
Because they know what's at stake, so they didn't say a word. And every time somebody says, I got an inside source, bullshit. Your inside source is a secretary sitting there overhearing something that somebody else heard in the bathroom. And when they came out, they gave it to somebody else who came out of the cafeteria and heard it because they're the people who are cleaning the socks of the basketball team.
I know that grapevine. It doesn't work very well. By the time it gets from you to me, the translation's a whole lot different, and you're 100% right. And that secretary who may have heard, I just heard Mario Cristobal's name, but they didn't understand that they were saying, we have no shot at Mario Cristobal. All you heard was Mario Cristobal's name. Now you ran and told Gary Furman, who told everybody in the world, come on, please settle down, because I will tell you that not one person in this country, not one person in this world knew that Lincoln Riley was going to USC. Not one. And I don't want to hear all you know it all. Oh, I knew it all. You know nothing. You knew nothing. You knew nothing about Brian Kelly ever leaving Notre Dame for LSU, because why would you leave Notre Dame? Who's ever left Notre Dame for another college job other than Lou Holtz? But heck, he went to NFL. He went all over the place. You don't leave Notre Dame. So that was huge. And not one person have ever interjected and say, hey, you know what? Brian Kelly's going to take that LSU job. So that's why I say all these names that these University of Miami people want to be such know-it-alls, and they want to be everybody. Oh, I told you that they would get who? Who are they going to get?
We love you people. We're just saying this in a friendly sense. We don't hate anybody. We're just trying to help.
But it gets to the
Most
point,
of these people we know.
Yeah. Mostly all the people we know. But my point is this: people just cannot. They always have to be credited with everything. Yes. Somebody, I told you he would do this. Who cares? You know what? Has it worked? And let me tell you something. For all those people who want their favorites, college football player, NFL, to come back and coach you, how did it work for Randy Shannon? Not very good. He can't really go back to his school right now because there's a lot of people that don't like him, that don't like the way he ran the football program. How did it work for Rick Neuheisel at UCLA? He can't even go near the campus anymore because people are always criticizing him. It is so overblown to be the head coach of your alma mater because you always have that pressure. Why would you do it? And I will tell you this. And it may offend a lot of you people, but the people that I'm offending, you just don't know the situation. I keep Manny Diaz. I'm sorry. I keep Manny Diaz because, A, he's done what he was asked to do. He had to fulfill and get an offensive coaching staff. He went out, got Lashley, who, God bless him, he got another job, but that's what the life is about. You know, I mean, and they went and he went and got the Coach Likens from Arizona State, and he went and got Garen Justice from UNLV to be his offensive line coach. Then defensively, they wanted you to make changes. He made changes. So he's done everything. He went and got he got that quarterback who's doing pretty damn well right now.
Now
So
the
I
AC
would,
and the ACC Player of the Year, I believe it
yes,
was.
a
Yep.
rookie of the year,
Rookie of the Year. There you
ACC
go.
rookie of the
Van
year.
Dyke, Rookie
Yeah,
of the Year. And
yeah,
and it happened because that coach saw it and made the changes, and Diaz did it and got him ready. And look,
yeah,
let's be honest here. If we're going to go down to Manny Diaz and go down this road, he's got a winning team this year. And it's a
yeah.
team that's going to go bowling. Is it going to go for a national championship? Hell no. And it wasn't even going to, because
No,
that takes time when you're rebuilding a program that has been decimated by bad leadership from the top on down, from the president, from former athletic directors, to bad
terrible.
coaches, to people who are making decisions. And here's something else. Manny Diaz, Larry and I, we don't know if he's actually going to stay or leave. I'll go right on record by saying
Yeah,
that right now, Larry,
I have no
because
clue.
we're going to say we don't know. And we know the people involved, because they're so beautifully tight-lipped on this that we're not going to go out there and make stupid, ridiculous guesses, because that's not what we do. But
Yeah,
we're going to say this, that in light of all of this rotation that's happening and all this merry-go-round and this ridiculous silly season that's leaving a lot of kids out there having to worry about their future. Let's not go to Brian Kelly. Maybe we'll hit that sooner or later. But Manny Diaz is actually in a pretty good situation right now,
yeah.
because he's got the recruiting that's solid. He's worked on it. He's got the kids. And here's another thing, Larry. These people out there who say that Manny Diaz has lost the locker room. Bullshit. You
Yeah.
don't know that. We can tell you that because we talk to the people and we talk to the players. Manny
Yeah.
Diaz hasn't lost the
He's
locker
lost
room at
nobody.
all. Okay?
He's lost nobody.
Nobody.
Nobody. They
Nobody.
wouldn't have beaten Duke. They wouldn't have won the game before. They wouldn't, and let me tell you something. Hey, you know what? While you're knocking FSU and Miami losing to FSU, let's be mindful that FSU had Notre Dame down and they were right in that game all the way. They played Clemson tight. They played everybody tight. So Jacksonville State beat them. Big deal. Okay. You know what? Rich Rodriguez is the head coach now at Jacksonville State.
Yep.
So you know what I'm trying to say is, I'm not a person who defends anybody, but I am the type of person that looks at a situation. And Ed, to be honest with you, who you getting that's better? Who are you? You have to elevate yourself. So is there a better head coach right now
Here's
out
the one
there
right
than
now,
Manny?
Larry. Lane Kiffin. Holy crap in the morning. Lane Kiffin, who never stole a freight train. Look, I don't know the man personally, but if you go back and look at his career, the man has left a litter of disasters behind him.
Oh,
I mean, he is not this all of a sudden great white knight that's going to walk in here and make this team a winner. Go look at what he's done and how he has left programs and the bad
yeah.
decisions that he has made with regard to his own positioning. This guy's just another con artist. He's not the
USC
savior.
left him on the
Stop.
tarmac, Ed. USC left him on the tarmac
On the
in
tarmac.
Arizona.
Yes.
On the tarmac. Okay, that's all you need to know. The guy did a pretty good justice for FAU in the 2-3 years he was here,
Yes.
but you knew he was going. He's going to leave Mississippi. He's going to leave everywhere because he's not reliable. Same thing with Urban Meyer. I would never take that guy. That guy's the most untrustworthy person in the world. He lies constantly. Oh, I need to spend more time with my family. Yeah, okay. I'll take this job. I'll take that
we
job.
caught you in that one too.
Yeah.
And we also caught you in the one that you got to go ahead and make sure that you have a waitress sit on your lap while
Right.
you just let your team go home while you're sitting there having a beer at your own restaurant. No, it's ridiculous. But again, I think it's part of the entertainment factor here, Larry, because again, these people don't know what they're talking about. They're
No.
reaching, Urban Meyer, but nobody bears down and looks at what's behind these people. Look at the
Sure.
histories of Urban Meyer and Lane Kiffin. I'll just bring those two up now. Hey, here's a message to University of Miami fans from Larry and myself. I think I can speak for Larry on this one.
Sure.
You really want these people at your program? These are your answers to get better? Have you looked? Have you done any research whatsoever? Larry, I've said in the past before that if Miami winds up with a high-ranked, high-level assistant coach from a great program and comes in here, I think it's a great idea. People say, oh, you don't want to start all over again, an assistant coach coming in here. When you're a top assistant at a major program like Georgia, Clemson, Alabama, Texas, whatever program you want to name, when you're the top assistant, you're basically one step from being the head coach. You know how it's run, so it's not as if you're walking in here as if you're a babe in the woods and you got to have your diapers changed. These top assistants know what they're doing, and it might not be a bad idea if you were looking to replace, but we're going to come back to it again. We don't know if Manny Diaz is leaving. If he does, okay. But to say that he's out, he's gone, he's lost the locker room, just stop, please.
That's lying. That's just
Thank
coming
you.
up with crap. And like I said, before you get rid of Manny Diaz, make sure the person walking in the door is
It's
going to
better.
be able to do what he's done with this program, at least give it a winning season and have some promise and have some playmakers. You're not, it's like when, remember, two of your best running backs were out all year. If you had those two, remember, things could have changed a whole lot better. And the only thing that angers me the most about a program like Miami is when they start mentioning unqualified people for jobs. I mean, just because you know them and just because you were a fan of theirs doesn't make it that it's going to be right. Because do you want to press this reset button every 2-3 years? Is that what you want to do? Because that's what you're going to do. And the only thing that saves you, and we're going to get into this in a few minutes, is something going on with the recruiting process. That's the only thing that's saving any program these days, because it's no longer imperative that you get a huge amount of freshmen coming in anymore, especially with the transfer portal. But like Ed said, Miami's going to make a decision to make the school better. And if Manny Diaz is that better, no matter what you think, no matter if you're a fan, because you're going to fly that banner for the next guy. Mario Cristobal be the next guy, and in 2 years, you're going to fly a banner. Let's fire Mario because he's 7-4, right? That's what you're going to do. So just take a step back and stop making changes
And
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 perfect
we're
the
going to
changes
say
you've
this.
already made.
Larry and I are going to say this. We don't know if Mario Cristobal is going to leave Oregon.
That was just a name.
No, but it's okay. But we don't know if we don't know. Nobody knows. You really don't. There is sure, there's a possibility that Mario Cristobal could leave Oregon, come to Miami tomorrow. Sure, it's possible. It's also possible the surface of the sun could freeze over in the next 30 seconds and we're all dead. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. Anything's possible, guys and gals. But to say that it's a definite is just nonsense.
Yeah.
Just
He's leaving. Nobody's happy out there. Right.
Hey, I
Okay.
got news for you. I spent time in Oregon years ago when I was traveling around, and I actually worked in Portland for a time for one of the networks. I worked in Seattle for one of the networks. That's some beautiful country out there with great people and a marvelous place to live.
I
And
don't
if you,
think Mario Cristobal has had to use his wallet or his credit card since he's been out there. Okay. That'll
I don't
put it
think
into perspective.
he probably hasn't really even gotten to know Oregon. You know, the guys, that's what a coach is. It's 12 months a year, 24/7, but it's
Yeah.
fine. But the entertainment, just please, people, just back down a little, and there's other things in life to worry about.
A
Now,
lot.
let's deal with coaches here, and we have so much to cover here. We could go on for days. So you've got Billy Napier goes from the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana to the University of Florida. Lincoln Riley goes from Oklahoma to USC. Brian Kelly goes from Notre Dame to LSU. You now have coaches that are changing and moving, and they're going to different atmospheres and different types of schools. Now, in Napier's case, from Louisiana, even though it's not an SEC school, he is still basically in that southern mix. Larry, you have been covering recruiting
Yeah.
for many decades now. So as these coaches make these moves to these other programs, what are the keys that they've got to make sure happens or doesn't happen so that they can then remain in the recruiting run, make sure that the proper transitions are made and not lose players, but still at the same time make that transition to bring in the new players that they're going to need as they set up an entirely new system?
Somebody like Coach Napier, who's been around. Remember, he was an assistant for a long time. He's under the Nick Saban coaching train, has done a really good job and went to Louisiana and lit them on fire and is a tremendous coach, and he's a people person. And he's the guy that used to hang out at practice all the time and talk to the kids and talk to the high school coaches around the Southeast. So he's a no-brainer. You know what, Ed, and the crazy thing about it, and I think I discussed this a couple months ago, after, I went on a tour this summer and I got a chance to go to all the colleges and walked around with every single head coach, and Dan Mullen was one of them. And I was so impressed with the University of Florida and just talking to him and some of the players and going in the locker room and look at the names of the players coming back. And then after Alabama, and you think to yourself, wow, they could have beaten Alabama. That's crazy. And then everything imploded. At that time, there wasn't a Florida Gator fan in the world. If I would have said to them, he won't even last the season, they would have taken me and put me in the straitjacket right away. So it just shows you how quickly things can turn south. So don't embrace something 100 billion% until you're sure. Because all of a sudden that world came crumbling down in less than 6 weeks. This man went from the virtual penthouse. Everybody loved him. And he was the greatest. He's going to bring back an SEC title to Gainesville, and then all of a sudden he's gone. So that's what I'm saying. Be careful what you don't know. You may know all these people that are being mentioned for all these jobs, but until you understand, like Ed said, until you do some research on what Lane Kiffin has done, his trail of destruction has been crazy, and nobody wants to put up with it. They just don't. They want a football coach who could teach football and not create a circus around them, and that's what he and Urban Meyer have done. Everywhere they've gone, it's been about me. It's been about me and not the program. And that's why, guys, when you look at success, Nick Saban doesn't make that program about him. He makes it about his players, his coaches. So that's what I'm saying. You look at the success of some of these teams, Georgia. You know what? We don't hear much about the coaches at Georgia other than, they're good recruiters, but we hear about their assistants and their players. It's got to be about the program. And everybody you've mentioned, not just you, but everybody else is mentioned as possible replacement here. They are me guys. They're not team guys. They're look at me.
So then in the case of a coach who's moving on to a different school, a Napier going to Florida, a Kelly going to LSU, a Riley going to USC, is it not fair to say that the first key to them is they have to make sure that it's not about them? They have to assimilate into the local culture of what the school is, but then they also have to bring their own thinking processes to it to improve that culture, and they've then got to bring their experience into it. But that's tough to do because you don't want to screw up the recruiting process that's already in shape. Look, I guarantee you that they recruit differently at Louisiana than they recruit at the University of Florida. They recruit differently at Notre Dame than they do at LSU. So then that's awful difficult, Larry. These coaches got to come in and they got to make sure they don't screw things up when they take over.
Well, what are we looking at as far as LSU? What do they have to work on that wasn't in place 2 years ago when they had perhaps one of the top 5 teams of all time? 2 years ago, one of the top 5 teams of all time. See, that shows you with Mullen's success early on in the season, and people after the Alabama game, wow, we're going to be up here and we're going to win the East and we'll beat Georgia. How does it come to this? It comes to this because of the fact that people don't understand. These coaches are just human. You're only going to get what you can get. If you have a certain amount of talent, they're not going to get any better just because you're a coach. You may be able to coach them up to a level, but they're still, if they run a 4.8, they're not going to be somebody who runs a 4.3. I can tell you that. My point is this. You get a college coach that's there to teach. That's been Miami's problem. That was Miami's problem for the longest time. They used to get these recruits in, but no one would coach them up. Obviously, you look, no shots at Al or anybody at Randy, but those kids weren't being coached up at this time because here's a perfect example. How do guys like Sam Shields come here and be an average wide receiver, but yet play 7, 8, 9 years in the NFL as a cornerback? How does Chantrell Henderson become the number 1 player in the country, commit to Miami, do absolutely nothing for 3 years, and go to the Buffalo Bills and light it up for 3 years? It's all about coaching, man. It's all about teaching, and there's not enough of it being done.
Is it fair to say that with the transfer portal now, that there is, and I'm going to be careful how I say this, that there is a little bit less of an emphasis on recruiting to the high school players, because now you have the ability, like any other pro league would have, to start looking somewhere else for a trade or a free agent in this case that might actually be able to bring you up faster than a recruit. And I make the examples of the Gators. They lost Julian Humphrey, the quarterback. They lost Isaiah Bond, the wide receiver, who both decided that they wanted to go someplace else. They may make somebody else's program better overnight, while the Gators then, using the transfer portal, which is now, again, it's basically like free agency in so many ways, they can fill that role like that if they find the right kid in the transfer portal, so they don't have to go out and wait for the high school junior or the senior to get in there. it's not as important. And I'm I'm doing this. I'm kind of biting my lip a little bit because I don't want to step on a toe here. It's not that important to be a top recruiter anymore at that 10 level. You can be a 9 or an 8 because you got the transfer portal there to kind of back you up and help fix your mistakes. Yes or no?
No, you're not going to make a listen. I'll tell you this: you're not going to make any enemies saying that, Ed. Because I will tell you this: because of the transfer portal, and because who's in there, you could correct your program right away, de-emphasizing a lot of the freshmen that are borderline kids. I mean, you want those five-star guys to, get your program so you'll have kids and you don't have to keep going into the portal. It's the same thing, like you said, free agency. It's like the Yankees went through a phase of not really developing guys from their own farm system, but buying people to win championships. And people do that. It's a good mix, but inevitably you want to start taking your farm system where you're going to be able to build that process, because sooner or later this transfer portal is going to get old and these kids are going to, because now they're leaving just to leave. Most of these kids are leaving scholarships on the table to go somewhere else where it's uncertain. So they go into that portal. But the good thing about the portal, and FSU used it last year with Coach Norvell. Kansas State used it last year. Quite a few schools used the transfer portal to their advantage. And I think right now you got to combine the two. You got to get your recruits, and you got to be a recruiter. But like in cases of USC, case like Oklahoma, everybody with new coaching staffs, you don't really have to worry, because kids decommit on you, but there's a ton of kids who are sophomores or juniors that will want to come to your school and play. So I think you're in a best of times and kind of the worst of times, but I think it's easier for you to play catch up now when you're a new program. You could win in a couple years, whereas opposed to, pressing the reset button, it's usually a 5-6 year process to get all those freshmen, pile one class on top of another after another. You got to get 3 good classes. But now you can combine those classes with the transfer portal, and that all adds up, because let's say you sign 12, 14 kids, but get 12 or 13 more from the transfer portal, that all adds up. And that's that class. So these kids may be 2 years in advance, but sometimes you need that. In this day's society, from an education standpoint, these kids got to get acclimated in the classroom. So when you get a junior or a sophomore or a redshirt sophomore who's been there for 2 years, you got already those 2 years out of the way. You got those freshman, crazy, awkward years, and then you got that sophomore year where things could come back at you and maybe be a jinx if you had a good year. Now you're already a junior, and you got that guy for 2 years and maybe sometimes 3 years, because of the fact that you get those 5 years to complete that 4-year education. So that's a good thing.
Well, you just made a great point here. You used the words farm system. And in
That's
essence,
what it
that's what
is.
we now have in college football that we've
Yeah,
never seen before. You have this massive system out there where you can
yeah.
pick from, and a coach can basically go to the individual who is now going to be a transfer portal expert, which I'm sure a lot of them already have on their
All of them
staffs.
are.
Okay,
Yes, they are.
that's all they do is look at this, and the coach can go and say, "How many we got?" Well, coach, we have 647 players are in the transfer portal right now. Okay, and you're going to see a grade board that's going to sit there. Here's your A's, here's your B's, here's your ones. It's all sitting there, just like any NFL draft would be, and you're picking from free agents. Now, the
Yeah,
coaches don't have to deal with agents. Well, maybe they do sooner or later, as soon as the NIL kicks in here, and you got lawyers who are going to leech their way onto these players and become their agents. So now the kids are going to say, well, let's see, education. Okay, I can get a nice education here. But yeah, you've got a chance at winning a conference title. And oh, yeah, I got a great chance here for my NIL. I got a great chance here for my Twitter and my TikTok to go to work here. Holy spit in the morning, Larry.
yeah.
Forget high school recruiting. Forget, we are now seeing an age where we're looking at, correct me if I'm wrong, we are going to be entering an age of a de emphasis of the high school recruiting. Yes?
In some ways, yeah. Like I said before, you're going to still have it, and you're going to still want to schmooze, and you're going to still want to get those 5-star elite kids. But on the other hand, you're not going to battle those the 2-3 stars or kids are really the ones that really are going to have to worry about this, because they're going to get the short end of the stick, and they will. It's inevitable. It's already happening. I get letters and texts and messages daily from parents and coaches and kids. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Here it is, 1st of December today. And then you're saying to yourself, wow, the National Signing Day is in 19 days, the first one. And then we got to come back again in February and do it all over again. What if I get left out? What if I have, those National Signing Days used to be so great because you'd have 25, 30 kids from each school on the stage, and they'd sign, and they'd have those nights, but it's not going to be like that anymore. It's you're going to I think the colleges are going to have to invite their transfer portal kids to a signing day party.
Hey, we're looking at a combine eventually. Look at it this way. We've had all these high school gatherings, which are together around the country, all these camps. Who's to say that one day very soon, and if somebody starts this, Larry and I will take our 10%. Very nice. Thank you very much.
Very quickly.
Very quickly. That you just start a combine. It's no longer just high school kids. Yeah, they're still high school kids, but they're all free agents. They're out there. You bring them all in here, you present them as free agents, and the teams can come out and watch them, which means instead of going to Slocum High School out in the middle of nowhere in the swamplands, I'm going right over here because I guarantee you that I'm going to wind up with 2 or 3 kids that are going to give me a chance at a national championship. It's going to hurt.
You got to find out when there's not a dead period, though. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because you're still under NCAA guidelines. But when you do that, and you find out there's no dead period, what you do is because we thought of that, and that's a great idea because a lot of people aren't thinking that. And because we first did this is funny. I'd have to say about 10 years ago when we found out that the indoor football league the arena football league was great. When back in the day when Bon Jovi owned a team, and when Danny White and John Elway, they all were involved in the indoor football league, and we had a combine in New Orleans. And here's the thing. We had like 3,500 kids over a 2-day period show up because of the fact that, but they were paying because they're professionals. But in this endeavor, you get these kids, just because you have to have some instruction and organization at these combines. But you made a great point, because you get these combines and invite college coaches out just to say, oh, yeah, I remember that guy. But they want to look at him now. They want to see what they're looking like because they haven't suited up in the game. So here even if you have to get independent insurance for these kids and have like little scrimmages, have a combine, but then suit up, have a scrimmage.
No big deal.
Yeah. Excuse me, but that's how it has to be done if you're going to really, and believe me, people are so enterprising, they're doing it right now as we speak.
We're starting it. That's it, man.
Yeah, we got it.
I'm calling the lawyers. Get right now.
Lawyer.
We're going to have to get this started. We'll get the NCAA on our ass in no time going, you can't do this.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, we can. You're just the NCAA. You're not that big.
Yeah. Go run tournaments and make posters. That's what you do the best, because you do not govern. The NCAA has not governed properly in 50 years, so I don't want to even hear about them. Mr. Emmert and his gang they're the worst. They're making rules that they have no clue about. I mean, it's just, especially when it comes to recruiting. And don't get me started, because I could take them right out of Kansas City or
what have I always
Indianapolis,
said over the years? I said the 3 greatest gatherings of gangs in sports these days is FIFA in soccer, the IOC when it comes down to Olympics, and the NCAA, because all they are great cartels that make a lot of money for themselves. Expert-wise, Larry Blustein is the expert. I tell you this over and over again. If you're not convinced now, you need to. And follow Larry. Facebook, Larry Blustein Recruiting. Twitter, @Larry Blustein. Instagram, our boy Blue. And on the website, LarryBlustein.com. is the great place to find out what he's doing. And you get all this conversation, you get a whole lot more. And trust me, all the shows that Larry's on, I'll say this, I'll get in trouble, I don't give a damn, but Larry does a lot of shows. Nothing comes close to this show with what we let loose on this show every single week. I'm telling you.
Eddie's the best, man.
You're the best.
Eddie will bring this stuff out on you quick.
The other guys are afraid to deal with this stuff because they're all beholden to the different schools and stuff. We're not beholden at all, and that's why we do it. Big Blue, always a pleasure, my friend. We'll talk to you next week. Have a good weekend.
All right, Ed, thanks.
All right, that's Larry Blustein. Don't forget, you get a hold of Larry Blustein, get a hold of us. See all the shows at TalkSportsNetwork.com. You get a hold of me at Berliner Speaks at Facebook and Twitter. For Larry Blustein, for everybody here, I'm Ed Berliner. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. Have a great week. Rock on, true believers. See ya.